Hello, everyone. My name is Tim Sells, and I'm so glad you were able to get onto the call. I've got a couple of things to share with you. Number one is that what you should be looking at on your screen here is the ARIIX business brochure called This Is Your Business. And so what I want to share with you is how I use this brochure to do a presentation. And I have to tell you, there's a bit of a secret that I have when building my business that I'd like to actually share with all of my teammates here in ARIIX. And here's the secret. When I start my presentation, I start it where the prospect is, not where I am. And I know that sounds a little bit confusing, so let me explain it. When the word where does not mean the prospect's physical location. It means their knowledge location. All right, and so let me give you an example of this. Right now, by and large, the majority of the people I'm sharing the business with are people familiar with the MLM industry. So what they want to hear about is the company, the management team, the compensation plan, and the products. So that is where I start my presentation, with those prospects. But if I'm presenting to a prospect who is not familiar with MLM, then this is not where I start. I have to start where they are. If someone is working as an employee, they typically think like an employee. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just they think like an employee. So that's where I have to start my presentation for them. The ARIIX company brochure starts with the assumption that the prospect does not yet understand business. And so I have to applaud the ARIIX corporate team for understanding this important item when they created this business brochure. Every new person who joins ARIIX will be sent this brochure, by the way. If you haven't gotten it already, you'll get it in the next couple of days. All right, so the very first thing that you should be looking at here is it's actually on page 3, and this is the way that I like to start presentation with somebody. And again, this is assuming that the person has come from a background of as an employee. Okay, so when I started out, I was in the military at the time. I was in the Navy. And when I took a look at what the person had to offer, I remember realizing that he was explaining to me. He was doing it a little bit wrong, but it obviously worked. But he was doing it a little bit wrong because I didn't see how I fit into it. So he was going along and he was presenting products. He was presenting, things, compensation plan, and I was the whole time kind of wondering if I had missed something. And so it is such a critical step for you to make sure that when you're talking to your prospect, they understand the preliminary stuff. All right, so now let me explain to you why this is the case. If your prospect does not know the value of a business, if they do not understand themselves how to evaluate a business, then it doesn't matter what about ARIIX you show them, they will not be able to understand it because they don't have any value on business. All right, so we start off here, this very first slide here is talking about the benefits of owning your own business. You see, if you just think this thing through, somewhere down the road, we all kind of bought into this concept. It's actually a ridiculous concept about what is normal. And what is normal in terms of what we do for work and things like that. There's nothing normal about it. Right? So we go to work for 8 hours a day. We spend 50 weeks a year, and so our boss lets us have 2 weeks of vacation. That's not normal, right? It's only normal because that is the way that we have kind of accepted, if you will. And so with a prospect who has the employee mentality, what I like to do and need to do is to kind of go back a little bit and say, all right, so the benefits of owning your own business are you're the boss. You control your own hours. You control who you work with and who you don't. You control your income. You control when you get a raise. You control when you take a vacation and if you ever come back. You get great tax advantages for owning your own business. You can pass a business on to your loved ones. You can't pass a job on, right? And so you're investing in your time instead of spending your time. And there's a big, big difference there. And so I like to start off a little bit in the beginning stage like this when I'm talking to a prospect this way. Now, something else that I failed to mention in the very beginning here is that when you're using this brochure, kind of the idea behind it is that you can use it as a presentation tool, if you will. And you can draw on it, you can circle things, you can sketch on it, you can diagram out some of the compensation plan things and you know, anything like that in the back. And then give this person the brochure when you're done, so that when they go home and they talk to their spouse gets to read it if they want to read it from cover, from start to finish. And so that was the way that it was designed, so that it can be used as a presentation tool that you end up handing to the person, and so that when they take it home and they show their spouse that it's able to be done and used both ways. All right, so the next thing that I want to talk to them about, and again, remember while we're doing this, we're educating them about what business is so that they can then later in the brochure evaluate ARIIX as a business. Trust me, I cannot believe how many thousands and thousands of presentations go on all the time, and they never even think, oh, well, the reason they said no is because they don't know how to evaluate any business. They weren't saying no to ARIIX, they were saying no to business because they have no idea how to evaluate it. And what I've learned in the past is that typically when somebody cannot themselves evaluate a business, they have to rely on the opinions of others. And so then that's what they'll say, what do you think of the business so-and-so, or what do you think of MLM, or something like that. It's because they can't themselves evaluate a business. So that's the reason this step is so critical. All right, so then I go through and I just basically, you know, go through this brochure just like this. So what is business? All right, number one, it's making people's lives better. But that's generally what business is. You yourself need to define what business means to you. Is it that you want to make your own hours? Is it that you don't want a boss? Is it that you want huge financial gain? Talking to someone, and let's just say that his name is Zach, I would say, hey, Zach, why would you want to own your own business, right? And so let that person tell you. All right, let's go to the next one here. And then once you know what they want in a business, you can kind of guide it towards what they want. In other words, just basically using that in the sentence a few times. And then, you know, when you have a particular point or you want to stress something, you just go ahead and, you know, use that person's phrase in there. Okay, so I've outlined in red a couple of the main things that when you're actually using the brochure to present, you'd want to circle this area. You want to make sure that you're focused in on it. The first one there on the left is that what you're looking for in a product is that you want to make sure the product is unique and consumable. And you want it unique because if they can get it down the street, then they don't need to use you. And if the product's not consumable, then you're unemployed until you do it again. And so if we sold houses, then we're unemployed until we can find somebody else to buy another house. And same thing with cars and things like that. So we want it consumable. And then the second box that I've outlined there is that this is a point that you are going to have to make because so many times people, and this is a really good one for chiropractors and doctors and physicians and people who are, in essence, self-employed, but it all depends on them, and that is you have to share with them the difference between selling themselves and selling a product. If they get locked into selling themselves, then they lock themselves into time restraints. And so an attorney only gets paid when he's actually on the clock with the client, if you will, because he sells his knowledge. Where if you sell a product, then that product can be manufactured millions and billions of times, but your time cannot, all right? Well, it can be, but I'll explain that a little bit later on. So these are the 2 points that I would recommend that you really highlight on this particular page. The next one here is the trends. And what we're trying to establish with the trends is that that they see that if they came out with vinyl records today, or if they came out with some idea, it doesn't necessarily mean that there is someone to buy it. And there has been so much emphasis put on the baby boom generation, and I like to use this little graphic here to illustrate why. Every one of those orange bars represents a year, and how high the bar goes represents how many babies were born that year. And what you see in the gray bars is how few people were born in that year. If you just happen to glance in the lower left-hand corner, you'll see in 1940 there were about I think about 2,500,000 people born. And then at the peak over there on the baby boom side, there were almost 4 million people born. And so you can see the big, huge contrast of what it must look like, or what it does look like when that many babies are born in one block of time. So it's quite substantial. So that's the point that I like to make on this particular one, is that if you time your products to what a massive trend of people are doing at a particular time, then you can do very, very well. And if you miss this, you can really hurt. In other words, it can really cause you a lot of pain because you just missed the market. And kind of the phrase that I typically use on this one is that when you are in front of the trends, you don't have to be very good. But if you are against the trends, right? So if you're trying to sell real estate right now, today, you have to be so good. You have to be better than everybody, right? But back when the baby boomers were all leaving their nest, leaving their homes, going out and buying their own homes, you didn't have to be good at all. You just simply needed to have some houses to sell because the demand was so strong. The next thing I want to emphasize for you is that I like to tell history of this, and so you can just, with your pen, you can circle this section if you want, and then draw a line over to the basketball that's in the garden hose. And so this illustration here is that it shows that when the babies were born in 1946 or so, that it just only took about a year before 1 billion jars of baby food was used. And so that's substantial. So again, you don't have to be very good. You just needed to have strained baby food at the time, and 1 billion kids eat it. And so that's what happens when you're in the front of the trends. But then just guess what happens when those babies move onto more solid foods? Well, those baby food jars are worthless now, right? In other words, it shrinks so substantially. And so every industry has gone through this expansion, contraction, and it's all been driven by the baby boom generation. And the point that you have to make at this particular one is that you say, if you come all the way up to 2012, 2013, what you're really looking at now is that those babies are aging. All right, they are now in their mid, late 60s, and health is a big issue to them. Wellness is a big issue to them. How to be healthy is a big, big issue to them. And so that's probably the most dominant driving trend around the world, because the baby boomers are not just the United States phenomenon. There are 1 billion people worldwide. And so it's so substantial worldwide. Of course, vanity, things that can help them look a little bit younger, is always going to be an issue. And then retirement products, all right? And so the money to retire, number one, is going to be a big, big issue. Estate planning, those kinds of things. It's going to be huge, huge. It already is, and it's going to continue to get bigger. It will be as dominating as the real estate industry was, as the car industry was when the baby boomers were all getting their driver's license. All of these things are going to be shaped. So this is the emphasis that you want to make. And people, for some reason, feel as though they have to go to economic school or something in order to really fully understand trends or understand how to time a business or anything like that. You do not. All you have to do is look around and see what consumers are buying. The next thing I want to share with you here is that Dr. Charles King, he teaches network marketing at the University of Illinois at Chicago. I have been a member of that faculty, taught for him all over the world, and the reason I put this in here is because I wanted you to, the section that I highlighted there was I wanted you to be able to have the industry statistics. And so that when you're talking about this as an industry, you're talking about a huge, huge industry. And so that's why I put those statistics in there so that you can use that. The next one is just really getting this concept, and as an employee, which is going to end up being 95% of the people that you talk to in the future. Right now, you may be focused more on people who have history in the industry, but in the future, 95% of all the people you're talking to are going to be employees. And so you're going to have to transfer them from the concept in their head that they work for themselves versus hire others, okay? And so this has to do with if you work for somebody else, then they control everything, all right? And then if you say, I want to be a boss, and so therefore I can have other people, and they work for me, all right? Well, that's fantastic. That is an advancement in terms of being able to get more done. You see, if I work for 8 hours, and let's say that Zachary works for 8 hours, but he works for me, then that means I got 16 hours worth of production done that day. And so you can imagine if a person has 1,000 employees or 1,000 people working for them, how much more they get done in a day. All right, that's a substantial concept when you really figure it out. And so what we ultimately want to do in our short period of time here on planet Earth is that we want to accomplish a great number of things. We want to make so many people's lives better. And you know, we run into this challenge that we can't do it all ourselves. And so in relation to business and in relation to wealth, if you try to do it all yourself, you can almost never. It does not work out that way. So you have to employ others. So that then, you know, draws the question, how do I employ others? What's the best way to employ others? And so what I do is that I like to describe a real estate broker, real estate agent scenario. And the reason that it is so much better than hiring employees is because no employee will ever work as hard for you will never work as hard for you as you will, because they don't own it. And so if you ever do get somebody who is as good as you or better than you, then if they do not have the same amount to gain, they will not stay there. You will lose them. All right, it happens in every industry. You train your best competition, okay? So you have to make it to where they make as much as you or have as much upside potential as you. And in an employee-employer relationship, it just typically isn't there, all right? And so the way that I walk a person into this understanding is that I describe a broker. And so a real estate broker hires an agent, all right? And so we put the word rep there instead of agent. And so a broker hires a rep. The rep goes out and sells the house. The broker earns 3% commission, and so does the rep. All right, well, why did the rep earn, or why did the broker earn a commission when it was the rep who actually did the selling? Well, the broker was the one that got the rep, trained the rep, put out ads in the newspaper, proven ads. In other words, their ads actually work, things like that, okay? And so what point you really want to make here is that it's not illegal. It's not predatory for the broker to earn a commission off the representative. And in no way is it predatory. It's actually, you know, very good, honorable. All right, and so the picture on the right-hand side shows you, and you just have to ask this simple question to the prospect that you're talking to. So if the broker wants to make more money, then what must the broker do? Well, the broker must hire more reps. And so if you had 3 reps, you're going to theoretically make 3 times the amount of money as 1 rep. All right? But the problem is that the representatives can't do this. Representatives can't hire 3 reps. And that's the reason that I brought up that question. If they don't have as much to gain as you do, you'll lose them. And so pretty soon that rep's going to move over. Okay, so in the picture on the left-hand side, which is what I labeled competitor number 1, broker has one of those really, really good reps. That rep is going to say, hey, wait a minute, I can do what that broker's doing, and then move up and out. And so that broker, the original one in that first picture here that is on competitor number 1, that broker actually trained his competitor. All right, now look at the picture number 2. That broker trained his competitor, but that broker then did the same mistake. And he got reps thinking that, no one will do what I did, but they do. And so they end up training each level of competitor out there. All right, so what you got to do right now is just ask the question, is this smart business? No, it's absolutely not smart business. And so then you'd flip over the page and you would be able to show them what you want to do instead is you want that broker to make that agent a new broker, but leave them right there and just say, hey, look, you know what, instead of breaking away and being my competitor, I want you to stay right there. And when they stay right there, you're going to earn a commission. You'll probably earn a little bit less, but you're going to earn a commission. And then that way, that broker feels as though that he has the same amount to gain. And the original broker doesn't lose them as an income. And then that second broker, she's a lady there, she assists her agents or representatives to become brokers as well. All right, so this is the concept that allows a person to slowly start to understand the value of network marketing. You see, if you just dump it on them and they don't know what it is, maybe they heard that it was a pyramid scheme, maybe they heard that it was a Ponzi scheme, maybe they think it's one of those things where you got to get in at the beginning and the people at the top make all the money, and all those things come up into their head. But if you walk them through this process of seeing that it works this way, then it'll make a lot more logical sense. It doesn't mean that they won't necessarily have any of those objections, but we put those in the brochure too to help you overcome those. Okay, so what I've got here on page 13 is that that long-term rule. I've described it to you already, and that is that in order to employ someone, you're going to have to, in other words, to retain them, you're going to have to offer them the same amount to gain that you do. All right, so I put that in a little box. I'd recommend that you highlight that to the person. And so then on the picture on the right is that as broker number 1 helps broker number 2 get his reps and sell more houses and things like that, and then broker number 3, so that first broker gets a little piece of everything that they do, and he should, because remember at the beginning, he did a lot of the training. He was the one that hired and got proven ads in the beginning, things like that. Okay, so it fits very nicely. And then the next one is that you just say, all right, we don't sell houses here because the trends are not with houses. What we have are nutritional products that are very beneficial for people. And then as we get other products and other categories and things like that, you'll be able to kind of go down the path that you most want to go. And so the picture on the left-hand side shows you as a representative, and instead of, selling real estate, you're selling the nutritional products, and so you've got customers. All right, and so that's step number 1, and this is the best business model that could possibly be. So you don't want to have employees, and representatives are better, but you don't want to train your best competition, and so now here's the very best business model you can be in. Okay, so that's what page 14 is doing, is showing you that this is the best business model you can be in. All right, and so on the right-hand side that I've highlighted in red there is that you, and then you train your customer, or you get customers, and then you get a rep. Once you get a representative, then you train them how to get customers. And then the next one, you can see that in the very bottom there on the left-hand side, then that person gets a new representative, and you make sure that your rep can train that new rep. All right? And so that's basically the very best business model, because everybody's training everybody. And so often people feel as though that the reason that they can't do business is because they have to go to business school first, and maybe they don't have the time, maybe they don't have the money or whatever, and they feel as though that they have to go to business school in order to be able to be a big businessman or big businesswoman. But that is absolutely not the case. You do need education, but it does not need to come from a college. In other words, one person who knows how to do it, and then train those people how to train others to do it. And that's exactly what this process really is. And then you probably know my success in the industry. I've made many, many, many millions of dollars. And this is not theory, okay, because I was a D- student when I went to high school. All right. So if this slide right here, or not slide, and if you were looking at it in the brochure, it's page 18. This is where, if you have somebody who has MLM experience, I would just jump right straight to page 18. And I would just start off with saying, all right, so you know about the industry, you know of its merits, you know the importance of working for yourself and all of those things. And so I'm sure you're probably interested in what the company's vision is. And so this would be the page that I would start. I would just go through each one of these. Now, very important, if you have somebody who has been in the industry and not succeeded in it, then what you will have to emphasize is this part that I've highlighted in red, and that is that we're going to give you the training. All right, so if somebody has not had success before and they're coming in and giving it another try, you've got to let them know how the training is going to be different. All right, and it's going to be better. Okay? All right, then the next one that you would show, and by the way, on that last slide I forgot to mention that if you've got a person who has come from an employment background, then right up to that slide, and I'm just going to back up there. Okay, so right here would be the last slide. Now they are up to speed, if you will, so that when you then come into page 18, you're now showing them the real RX business. Before, you were educating them on the things they needed to know in order to evaluate what you're now about to show them. All right? And so, again, this is the RX vision, and then you can show them the management team. It would not be a bad idea for you to go through the website, rx.com, click on the management, and read the bios of each one of these people, so that you would be able to, in the brochure, be able to point out and say, well, that guy right there is Fred Cooper, and you know, that's Deanna Latz, and she's the head of our product people, and things like that, so that you're knowledgeable about who is running the management team. The next one, of course, is that you can talk about the products. All right, now this is not where you go into great detail. You can be very passionate about your successes with the product. You can tell them about how the products just continually are evolving and getting better and better and better. I mean, it was just yesterday I was talking with Deanna, and we had a long conversation, and she was telling me about all the changes that are happening right now, and I just started laughing. I just thought, man, this is such a dream to have a company that's always staying on the cutting edge. And if we find a supplier that's a little bit better, in other words, where we get the source of our ingredients, she's on it. I mean, she is on it instantly, and so I just love her for that. All right, so that would be the management team, and then the products, and then you can go into the compensation plan. All right, so if somebody has a lot of experience with compensation plans, you can show them this. Okay, if it's a new person, then I would not show them this. You can let them read it in details if you want to, but they'll be spinning if you let them look at this right here. And so what I do is I just sketch two parts of that compensation plan, okay? Let me back up to that slide before, and you're going to see something in the second column from the left at the bottom that says base commissions, okay? I will diagram. I won't let them read this. I will diagram base commissions, okay? And then if you look all the way over to the far right-hand column at the bottom of that, it says matching bonus. All right, that is the two things that I want to show people, especially if they have network marketing experience. Okay, so here's what I show them. You'll see this dotted black line that runs vertical. Okay, so don't look on anything on the right-hand side of that for right now. On the left-hand side, what I show them is I just sketch this on a piece of paper, and it's just like this, okay? And so I will sketch starting with U, the U on the left-hand part. And then I will say, you know, this organization starts off as a binary, meaning 2. So you just get 2 people, all right? So probably you know 2 people who would want to be their own boss, make their own hours, go to on vacation and come back if they want to, things like that, right? You could find 2. Okay, so that's the whole concept, and then you're going to teach them how to get customers and then teach them how to do the same thing. And so on the left-hand part here, we have a blue circle, and that we call our power line. And the power represents that it is got more volume, not necessarily people, but more volume in it. We don't get paid on that one. On the right side of the blue part there, we have a pay line. That we get paid on. And then the orange box at the bottom, it says 15% on week side up to $2,000 a week. And so I then normally say, all right, so on your pay line number 1, you are going to build their people here until there's enough volume that you're making $2,000 a week. And then it optimizes. In other words, you can still continue to build there, but you don't make a lot of extra money that way. The next one is that allows you, when you've built one of them to $2,000 a week, is to build pay line number 2. And then I just draw it just like that. I don't have a bunch of circles or anything like that. I just build it. I just draw it just like this, and I go, then do it again. And you just keep adding these $2,000 a week lines, right? All right, now, for those of you that know the compensation plan fairly well, you might say, well, why don't you teach them about the putting income positions underneath some of these lines and all of that? There will be a time, and that time is if they know enough that they ask me a question about something, well, then I will know, okay, well, I can go a little bit deeper here. But if they don't ask anything at all about the compensation, I will not do it, because this kind of stuff just confuses people. So that's all I'm going to draw is what you see there on the left-hand side. If that person has a network marketing experience and they are a big hitter, what I would do is I would definitely show this right-hand side, because I have to tell you, this is one of the things that that caused me to be in this business, is this 5% down 7 levels deep. Now, it's not 5%, it's 15% on the first and 10% on the second, and third down to 7 is 5%. Where I made many, many millions of dollars, it was 5% down 6 levels deep. And so when I look at this as compensation, it's just unbelievable to me. And so I couldn't be more excited. So anybody who really understands, you know, the money can understand if I get paid 5% down 7 levels deep, that's substantial money. All right, and so you just need to show that. And then down in the black box warning down there, I just have that extra little thing down there, and it's going to be very important later. Okay, so I just say now, but 5% all the way down, that assumes that you're a 2X membership. And if you did want to get started, I would share with you how you become a 2X member, and that's the way that I say it, so that I have planted that seed there now when it matters. Okay, and say, you know, so if you don't want to be a 2X member, then you would get basically half of that commission. And then I move on. Okay, and so then here are the other parts of the compensation plan. If you have somebody who is, you know, coming from working for somebody else as an employee, you know, you might circle that luxury car bonus and say, hey, would you like to have a nice car? It's not that difficult here. And then just show them how to do that. And that typically works. Then we hit the objections part. And what I advise you to do is that if any time during your conversation an objection pops up, do not progress. All right? Do not bury the objection. They don't go away. And don't say, I'll cover that later or anything like that. Because what happens is that when somebody opposes something, then they oppose it. That means they're not really listening with interest. They're actually listening with proving you wrong. And so what you've got to do is, if an objection pops up, then you need to say, okay, well, you know what, let me show you something. You think this is a pyramid. I can understand that. Let me show you something. And then you flip over to page 26. And then right here you explain to them, okay, so this is the typical way a person views a pyramid. The people at the top make all the money, right? And so then you just explain that in a typical corporation, the CEO makes more money than the president, and the president makes more money than the vice president, and the middle managers make more money than the staff. And so that is each level making less money, so the person at the top does make all the money. And I typically will just just share a little story and say, you know what, back in 1975, the Federal Trade Commission tried to sue Amway for being an illegal pyramid scheme. And 5 years of litigation, what came out in the end of that was that the court ruled that Amway was a legitimate business and not a pyramid scheme. And one of the influential points of that was that there were people who came in to testify, and that the records would show that people in the lower ranks were making more money than the people who had gotten in before them. And so it proved the entire theory wrong. And I actually find it quite ironic that we are the industry that people think the people at the top make all the money. But in reality, we're the only group that doesn't do it that way. In other words, there will be people who are in ARIIX that make more money than me. All right, and I applaud them. And it should be that way. If they're more productive than I am, good for them. Okay. Next one is that this just is the concept of pyramid. So the one before it was the pyramid view, and I just like to illustrate that it's not the shape. And then over on this next one, I do a little bit more of an emphasis of people being more productive, and I draw an analogy to a kindergarten, a daycare center kind of a thing. And you ought to read this so that you can really understand it, because it really helps people to understand that the structure is actually very beneficial. Do the people at the top make all the money? And what I do here is that I'm showing a graph. And this graph is what the average CEO makes compared to what the average worker makes. And the average CEO makes $10 million a year, if you factor in all parts of their compensation. And then over on the right-hand side, you'd want to read that because it gives where I got these sources from. Do you have to get in at the beginning? So if they have that objection, that actually comes out of the investment world. It doesn't come out of network marketing. It comes out of the investment world. And that is that you have to get in at the beginning, and then when you think it's not going to grow much more, then what you want to try to do is get out. And who do you sell your investment to? Some idiot. Because you think it's going to go down. Why else would you sell it? And so therein lies the difference between what my perception and my view of this industry is. This industry is about bringing people into a business and helping them. It's not about who gets in first. All right? So that's the way you handle that one. And then the too busy objection, and anybody who has the I'm too busy objection is, and I didn't get to highlight this one, it would be in the first column and the very last thing, and it says I can do it better myself or I can do it quicker myself. Those two concepts is what causes a person to have too little time. A person does not get more time by working harder or faster or anything like that. They can squeak a little bit by being more efficient, but that does not do it. The only way you ever get more time is through the leverage of other people. Okay, so if you've got 10 employees or 10 representatives, then you're going to be theoretically 10 times more productive. And that's the only way you will ever solve the too busy objection, or the too busy concept in somebody's head. So if a person is saying to you, I'm too busy, I don't have enough time, then I just like to ask them, let me ask you something, is that something that's new, or has it pretty much been that way your whole life? Right, and get them to think about it. Now, you got to be really careful. You can't say that in a sarcastic way, but that's the thing that you want to help them with. They've got a barrier there. They can't see that if I've built tens of thousands, over 100,000 people in a business. Well, just exactly how many hours do I get paid on? And so that's the reason that in essence, I'm still extremely productive, but I still have time. Okay, so that's that objection. And then this one is about being a professional communicator. This one, what I'm really trying to do here is I'm trying to let people know that a lot of times people have this concern and fear about being a salesperson because they don't want to be pushy. And so this one right here is about that person who just doesn't feel as though that they are a salesperson. And it's really sharing with people that if you're intuitive enough to know that a person does not want something that you're selling, then don't sell it to them. It's actually unjust. It's inhumane. It's unjust. Don't do it. And so I'm, in essence, letting people realize that they can not sell somebody. Okay, so not being too pushy is something we don't want people to be. And then workaholic prevention, and this is me illustrating with numbers what I just described to you earlier. And so if a person works, and this is the first box on the left-hand side that's highlighted in red, 24 hours a day, and does that every single day of the year, then the most number of hours that they can put in would be 8,760 hours. All right, so again, but that would be working every single day for a year and every hour of every day. Okay, so obviously no one can do that. But 8,760 hours is the most they could ever do. However, if you had 100 people who each just worked 8 hours a day, then you would be being paid on 292,000 hours. That's how you make yourself more productive and how you don't have to be a workaholic. And so then there's a summary here. You can go through there with your prospect. And then absolutely, if you've got somebody who has history in this industry, you have to cover this section. The real reason that I was so over the top impressed with ARIIX is because of what they set down and wrote up, and of how they were going to be different. And so in essence, they were going to be building a model MLM business. And I wanted to create a company, an MLM business, that had a model training in it. And what these guys have done on the model MLM business side is just incredible. If you knew how many hundreds of people that I know who have basically been terminated by their network marketing company, it would break your heart. Where many people think that they build MLM companies, they're distributorships, and so many people build their businesses, and they don't realize how fragile that is, because there is a person who, or a couple of people that sit in that company, and that they can terminate you if you do something that they don't like. And then if you try to do something or say something, then they can hold your check. They can stop payment on your check. And so what this company has done very different, you need to point out to people who have network marketing history, because these are huge issues. Any leader in this industry who has built many, like a big business, knows these issues and will just so appreciate what ARIIX is doing. All right, and so the first box that you see highlighted there for me, the top, is the right to share profits. Any big hitter that you're talking to, you have to show them that the company is willing to share. They have a profit sharing program, and they want to get into it. And you, listener, you want to be into that. And then the other one is right to true ownership and protection. And that one is the one that I was just talking about, where people build a business and then they're terminated. And this company, they can do it, but only if your peers agree. And so you've got to, you can't find anybody that likes you, then yeah, probably so. But it is not adjudicated by a person. It is adjudicated by a group of your peers. Okay, so if they do something, then you can come back and say, hey, I would like to have you know, a room of my peers that evaluate this. This is so substantial in this industry. The next one is compensation plan changes, and that's on page 35. In other words, every one of these you should read and know and be able to describe them to people, but I'm just emphasizing the ones that network marketers, it will ring true to them. And this one is right to review compensation plan changes. Just talking to somebody the other day, big leader, making $30,000 a month. They changed the compensation plan. He's now making $7,000 a month. Ouch. Right? It wasn't because he didn't build a good business. It was because they changed the compensation plan. And so ARIIX is doing that different. All right? It's huge what they're doing. And so with that, I sure appreciate that you were able to get onto this call. I hope that I've made your life a little bit better by the information that I've shared with you here. If you'll present this way, I assure you that you'll have greater success, because if you present in such a way that you jump ahead of them and you start presenting company, compensation plan, trends, time, you know, that kind of stuff, then you'll alienate them, because they're not up to where you are. And so so start wherever they are, all right? And it doesn't mean that somebody who has a ton of experience in network marketing, you're going to sit down and you're going to start talking about the baby boom generation, okay? You don't do that either.